This is the final episode of our 4-episode special on The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second half of the book, conclusion, our thoughts about the ending, and also our top best and top worst.
The next part are 3 interludes again. Yeah. This time they're really good, suddenly.
Okay.
Why wasn't it like this before?
Yeah. Fair enough, I agree.
Okay, so what do we have?
We have the best set chapter.
Set is there
we have
for the...
set,
so that's the last one.
That's the awesome chapter.
You forgot the rule here. It's what the hell? Why? Set.
Okay,
so first what the hell? So that's what.
So Bexil and Emuli destroy artwork.
Alright, okay, this is just
that's
like...
also foreshadowing.
This is... Yeah, okay. There are 2...
It's gonna pay off.
So one is going to pay off, like the lady who's destroying statues.
Yes.
Okay.
She will be important at some point. I will not say why or where, but she will be important. We have a very important detail which you can connect in this same book, but you will probably not have noticed at all. Which was mentioned also by Dalinar. We didn't talk about this. So we barely talked about Dalinar at all as a character. He's super important. But
it's gonna come up now with the next part.
Yeah, he doesn't remember his wife's name, or he can't hear literally his wife's name.
He doesn't remember anything.
He doesn't remember anything related to his wife because he believes he used the old magic.
Yeah, it was there.
Describe my face.
Okay, so let's go to the second interlude.
Okay. So next interlude, Ashir and Geranid.
Geranid. I don't know. I'm just making it up. That's like they're studying spread and how they are working and reacting to thought.
Is this the part you told me I will like when you were reading it and you were like, I found the part you will definitely like? Is it this?
No. Why?
Because it's physics.
Maybe it was. Yeah, because it really reminded me of like what you were saying about Project Hail Mary. I think this was the part.
Yes, I found the part you told me I will love when you were reading it. It's 800 pages in this
book. No, okay. But this was the second thing. I think the first one was the fact that they are using special curses. Damnation, storming something.
You mean a curse? Okay, curses, yes. I like that too.
So, that was the first part.
Okay, so this part, of course, is basically sci-fi, so I like it.
I like the atmosphere of this. It's just, it felt misplaced.
So they study flame spren, and it's basically an analogy to light being a wave or a particle.
Yes. Yeah.
Very cute, how they say.
Yeah.
And then finally, Seth super bloodbath fight.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking with portals and stuff
this is the scene that you need to make into a movie at one point.
Definitely
and
the most badass fight.
Yeah, first like the sharp bearers coming out of the table. That was really cool because I wasn't expecting that, and just like imagine this scene where there's like this huge feast and he starts killing like people at random, and then like these 2 giant people in armor come out of a table. She's like, what the fuck?
Don't mind our business, we're here just like...
because like what I was thinking is like, imagine these 2 poor people, like there was this huge feast and the king was like, you will be here inside this table for hours inside the feast, during the feast, just in case this guy shows up. And so like these guys were like this, like completely like with this huge ass armor which it's really heavy and everything and really uncomfortable. Like it's still not pleasant, but it's really hard to do certain things while you're in a sharp plate.
Okay.
So, they had to stay like there, like inside the table. In fetal position, just waiting until the guy was like, no, like,
Finally.
Surprise! We might die now.
Confetti is flying.
Yeah. Our moment has come. Yeah.
So I'll say if you're not reading this and you like fantasy action, read only this one chapter which is super short.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just skip through interlude 9.
Yeah.
Like 800 pages in and it's just this one part and you'll get something out of this.
Yeah.
It's my advice.
Yeah.
Next part, for part 4.
Yes.
Oh my god, so much more. Oh my god, you're gonna die here.
Part 4 is the best.
Yes.
And essentially part 4 is one big event.
Mm-hmm. So back to Dalinar, Adolin, Sadeas.
Can we talk about Dalinar and Sadeas for a second?
We could, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like, Dalinar is
kind
like,
of like missed
everything
about
one
Dalinar.
of the three main characters. So Dalinar is like, he was the brother of the king, and he survived the king. He was like this super famous general and warrior who was supposed to be like the greatest warrior and general in all of Roshar.
Yes.
Or like one of the best.
The Black Thorn.
Yeah, his nickname
There
Black
are
Thorn.
legends
Yeah.
around him.
Especially after his brother's death, because when his brother died, he was drunk, sleeping at the table, so he couldn't help his brother, and he kind of lives with this regret, so he quit on drinking, and he always respects the code, so he's always in uniform. He has this rival friendship relationship with Sadeas, and who's like the second most important man in the realm after him.
Mm-hmm.
And because Sadeas is ruthless, and he's the one using like the bridge crews, while Dalinar uses like mechanical bridges so no one dies.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, he's really slow, and he's kind of refusing to play the game where like the other high princes are trying to catch these
the gem hearts from
yes. While he seems like Sadeas is clearly like openly speaking against him, apparently they kind of like a secret pact to protect Elokar, because Sadeas and Dalinar were Elokar's best friends. They kind of want to protect
Achieve the
Elokar at
same
any
thing,
cost.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, like after saving Sadeas' life,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like, you know, Sadeas finally is opening to him and is kind of like willing to see his point of view.
Mm.
And he agrees to go with him on a hunt to the tower, who's like the most difficult place in the Shutter Plains.
Yeah.
It's a place that's the most far away
Yeah.
from the camps, and it's also very well protectable.
Yes.
And Tarshem are always there first, so
Yes.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
impossible almost to get to the gem
Exactly.
on that tower. on
But
that
he
place.
says if the two of us go together, we will be really strong, and you know we can actually do something. We didn't talk about, like, he has two children. One is Adolin, we talked a little about him. He has
Yeah.
another child who's Renarin,
Yes.
who is kind of like this nerd. He's kind of weak. He suffers
He's
from
nerd,
epilepsy.
but he kind of needs to be nerd
Yeah.
because of his condition.
Yeah, he has like epilepsy, and but he's very brave. Both Adolin and Dalinar really love him.
Mm.
And also he has this weird relationship with Gavilar's widow, Navani,
Yes.
because in the past, both him and Gavilar were courting her, and he was in love with her, but eventually she chose the older brother. And Dalinar is still kind of has feelings for her, and it seems like she's flirting a lot with him, but he's like, no.
I hate those parts.
Yeah, I really didn't like Navani in this book. She kind of grew on me a little in later books, but anyway, he was not really sure what to do about her.
So they get together in this part. Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah. And he's very bad at politics, and people are kind of like don't like him so much because they suspect him he wants to essentially
Because
take the
he's
throne.
against their games. That's it.
Yeah, first, like, he doesn't want to play their bullshit, like the bullshit games. And many people think he wants to become essentially the king. Because many people said that when Gavilar died, he should have taken the throne. Because he was much, much more popular than Elokar. And Elokar is kind of presented kind of like as a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
He's very insecure, and he looks like an idiot in many situations.
Thank you. I had you summed it up. I was kind of out of it with Dalinar.
Now we're caught up with Dalinar. We can continue.
Yeah, we can continue. So they decided to go on this mega bridge run with Sadeas.
Also, Dalinar kind of supports the Bridgemen as the only Bright Lord. He kind of helps them, and he doesn't view them just as tools. So he was like, why don't we do something to help them and not just keep killing all these Bridgemen? Yeah, so he's a little bit nicer to them.
Yeah.
So Kaladin, in the meantime, keeps going in the chasms, and he keeps training the army. His like private small army. So
we didn't mention that, but yes, Kaladin starts training all the bridgemen from his crew
because
with the spear.
He keeps getting depressed and like crushed, and all the people like they became friends, and they stew together every night, and they're so happy. But there's no way to go because
there's no escape.
There's no escape. It's just gonna be ground down and that's killed, and they're gonna be killing the bridge runs. So he is trying to find out the way out of this.
Yeah. And they start thinking about different possibilities, and they start using permanent bridges to essentially hide something that they want to bring on the runs. And also, so finally they come up with this idea, because the Parshendi seem to be very, very respectful of their fallen, of the corpses of their brothers and sisters. They realize that if one of them is clearly desecrating their bodies, they will focus their archer fire on that target, allowing the other bridgemen to run free. And so he and the others start doing that. Also, Kaladin learns, he can use Stormlight. So, he's able to kind of like escape
and be,
and be like,
move the arrows out of the way.
Exactly. So using Stormlight, he's able to survive. And this allows the bridgemen to, not only of his crew, but also of other crews, to reach the chasm without being shot.
Yes.
So while at the beginning, like the other bridge crews really hate Kaladin and Bridge 4, they kind of start like seeing them more positively, because they're like, oh, wow.
You're kind of saving our lives now.
I want to say one last thing, because there is another big character we have completely ignored until now. Can you guess who it is?
There was Wit?
Yes!
Oh, Wit, of course.
So we haven't talked about Wit.
But who is it?
Okay, so first.
That's the question.
So first, Wit, it was kind of like a jester.
Court jester
it was kind of like a
king.
jester. Okay. So in this, like in the Inalet there is this tradition that there is the king's wit, and the wit essentially it's just like making fun of other people.
Okay.
Like, of course, it's mainly like making jokes, but clearly a couple of times he says something which seems very important and serious, and he seems to respect Dalinar a lot.
Yeah, at one point he visits Dalinar at the feast, just sits randomly beside him and starts spouting random bullshit.
Yeah.
And Dalinar has no idea what he's talking about. And it is really mysterious about it. Do you know about Adonalsium? And he's like, what the fuck is Adonalsium?
Yeah.
Okay. No matter what, let's talk about something else.
Anyway, Wit meets with Kaladin, and he tells him a story while he is also playing the flute. It's also revealed that Wit was the master of Sigzil, who's one of the bridge crew members. Who's also the one running the tests. That's, I thought, the other part you would like. When they do the tests with the Stormlight.
Oh yeah,
it was really fun.
That was fun.
And they hung Lopen to the wall. Anyway, he meets Kaladin, and he tells him this very strange story about a boat going to this island, and essentially in this island everyone looks super nice and super peaceful, but then someone did something small, a very small mistake, and they immediately murder this person. And the crew of this boat is like, what the fuck? Why did you murder her? And they were like, well, because, our emperor has this rule, and, everyone has to be perfect. So we're always so nice and everything else. But then, actually, the crew eventually finds out that the emperor was dead. There was no real emperor. And so, when these people find out, they realize that they didn't have a real motivation to do this. They thought they were doing this for their emperor, but this was just fake. So immediately they start a civil war, and this is how it ends.
I don't remember this part very much.
I think it's a very interesting story. First, because it kind of poses a very big question. What gives you the right to kill, or what gives you the right to say you're in the right? And how do people treat themselves by thinking that they have moral justification to do something? What justification can you craft for yourself so that you can be at peace with what you do? Is a very, very important point throughout the story. So this story kind of is representation of this conundrum. And Kaladin at this moment, it's what the fuck? I'm not so interested in this. And Wit gives Kaladin a flute, his flute. He says, you need to learn how to play this flute.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And then Kaladin is like, yeah, whatever, what the fuck, man, I don't care. And then Wit kind of leaves. Right? Again, this seems completely irrelevant, but this will be very important.
Okay, of course.
And I think, regardless of whether it's important or not, I think this was a very, very cool moment. I really, really liked it, because in a way, it's almost as Wit was telling this story to the readers. And also because he says something very, very interesting, which it's very difficult to guess it from this, but the biggest secret of this first part of the saga, which will be revealed, I will not say when and in which book, but he hints at that when he says, have you ever heard the story of the hare? Like, do you know hares? Like rabbits? And Kaladin is like, what? And then he says, oh, okay, right. I guess for you it will be some kind of like, some kind of disgusting animal with like, a shell and like 1,000 legs. He says something like that, right? And you're like, he mentioned rabbits, but in this world, as far as we know, there are no rabbits.
Yeah.
So
the only place you can imagine being rabbits is Shinohara, right?
yeah, but even then, like, he knows rabbits, like, and he knows the story, which like it doesn't make sense. So
it's something.
Yeah,
it's something. There's something.
yeah, there's something big that you like. By saying this, he's revealing like two gigantic secrets, which at this point you're not really aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will get more of it.
Yeah.
Much more of it, which is fun.
Can we get to the tower? It's almost time.
Yes.
Please talk about it.
The last 200 pages, 250 pages, they were amazing. I literally couldn't stop reading. So there was like this big bridge run and big moment, like Sadeas actually
Sadeas and Dalinar together.
Yeah,
they
and
get to the
like
tower.
Dalinar said, we will use my bridge crews, but then he orders all the bridge crews to retreat. And so essentially leaves Dalinar and all of his army to die against like a gigantic Parshendi army.
Betrays him.
Yeah. I thought this was a very, very cool moment. You could have seen it coming, but at the same time,
Really?
it was really shocking.
Like, I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it
Like,
coming, but I think smarter people than me could have seen it coming.
I was completely like,
Yeah.
even when I was reading the book for the second time, I was like, oh fuck, this happened. Oh shit, that was brutal.
Yeah, and like Dalinar and Adolin are completely shocked, and they kind of realize that they're dead. Like they have no choice.
Yes.
And there is this really cool moment where they realize this, and even like there is a crescendo of cooler moments. So first cool moments like the shock of the betrayal, and Dalinar and Adolin essentially realizing like, well, we're screwed. Us, the two of us, and all of our men are dead. And the guy like betrayed us, and like it's a very, very dark moment. Second step, even cooler, Kaladin realizing that essentially they're free, like because blah blah blah. Essentially, they realize that all the bridge crews are coming back, but Kaladin tells them, "Yeah, we're a little tired. We'll come back a little later." And they said, "Okay."
Finally find their way to
so
escape.
essentially they're like, "Yeah, we can escape.
You could just
You're
leave
safe."
the bridge and run to the hills, and nobody would care because they would think we just died. You know?
Essentially, yes. And they can take weapons because there are like some corpses. So then they can just go anywhere and just survive. So all of this time they were like, wow, we have been thinking for days and days how to escape, and now we have this big chance. But then Kaladin sees still
in
kind
her,
of like
sad form, big sad form.
She's like super sad at like the fate of Dalinar and his army, and so Kaladin remembers like Lyrin's words, like if no one takes the first step, no one ever will, and so he's like, maybe we should go and help them, like we can save them. Cool moment. The bridge crew is like, we're finally free, but you know what? Let's do this. Like, we could run away, and who cares? Who gives a shit about those people? But, we can save all of them.
I think they did it mostly because they always will follow what Kaladin does.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I think if he wasn't there, they would have been far gone.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. But I think that's what Liam was saying. Like, Kaladin, because, like, they believe in Kaladin so much, if Kaladin takes the first step, people will follow
everybody
and
else
do the
will
right
as
thing,
well.
right?
In that sense, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
So they go to save him, and here's like the cathartic anime moment of the flashback. Like, so Kaladin is like like he tries to save because now all of the archers can shoot at Bridge 4, and Kaladin tries to catch all of the arrows, but he uses all of his Stormlight, so essentially he is
But he's learning, he knows how to control it better, so he like, sucks the arrows into one small shield.
But he's completely dead after that.
And he passes out after that.
It's like the ultimate sucking of the arrows. Like every arrow in the vicinity of 10 kilometers is just sucked into his shield.
And he has, again, because this is an anime, he has this flashback moment. He remembers, he relieves the moment Tien dies.
Flashback 11.
Yeah. But this was a good flashback, right? Good moment for flashback, right? He sees again the moment Tien dies and how he failed to protect him. He wakes up and he has like, again, this super epic moment where he starts running and getting like more and more energy, and he realizes that all the Parshendi have a lot of gems in their beards.
Yeah.
So he can suck all of that light, and he swears the second oath of the Knights Radiance. Well, actually, the second oath of the Windrunners, which is, do you remember?
Of course not.
I will protect those who can protect themselves.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And this is like, I will be honest, like I was just smiling at myself. Like I was so happy, like so excited. Like this was such a cool moment. I can't underestimate how excited I was at that moment. I know maybe it sounds stupid, but like, I really felt like this is the moment where I really understood this book was giving me the feelings I had when I was reading these kind of books or comics when I was like in high school. And then, kind of later, because I changed the type of books I was reading and also because I was growing up, I didn't really get that type of feelings anymore. And so I was so happy, I kind of like, I rediscovered these feelings. So, yeah.
Yeah,
it only took 1,000 pages.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I don't mind. Because then it gets even cooler. Because Kaladin essentially starts killing Parshendi left and right. And he fights and defeats the Parshendi Sharbearer.
Does he?
Not really. Yeah, defeats, but not kills. Yeah, defeats.
Yeah,
okay.
He defeats him.
But in the meantime, Dalinar is fighting the Shardbearer.
Yeah, and he's losing.
Dalinar is basically almost dead.
Yeah.
Kaladin comes to save him.
And then he comes in there all the way through the army.
Dalinar is like, is this guy glowing? Like, he's like almost dead, basically, like just.
He's half passed out, so he doesn't really understand what's happening. And he doesn't understand that, Kaladin is glowing and doing like.
Guy is glowing and fighting this Shardbearer on his own? What is happening? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And Kaladin essentially becomes this new leader of the whole army. He starts like giving orders even to Adolin and everything. So essentially he becomes this one authority that saves everyone. Yeah. And it's just, it's an epic moment.
It's really cool. Like, it sounds stupid just saying, it's an epic moment, but it is. Like, it's really, really epic. And there's so much build up to this. And, with everything that you've seen, everything that Kaladin has gone through, and how many times he failed to protect the people, and then, he did the side carry and how that turned out. And finally, this time he's able to save someone and to fulfill like his deepest wishes, which is like to protect other people. And not only that, but like the bridge crew there is like this revenge moment. The bridge crew they were the lowest of the lowliest, and they saved the most important people in the realm. And they did that by their own initiative. They could have left them to die, but they didn't, even though the Light Eyes did nothing good for them, their whole existence. So this was an amazing moment. So they survived. Tons of people died anyway. Tons of 2/3 of Dalinar's army is dead. But they're able to retreat.
They retreat. Yeah. And this feels like the ending, but it's not the ending.
It's not the ending. That is true.
We still have kind of...
Okay, I'll say one more thing I was thinking about. So this part, epic moment, battle, okay, love it. But the whole book, I was thinking about Kaladin. So Kaladin, we have all this backstory, all this build-up. And constantly he's like a doctor and a surgeon and a soldier, and he's like, I can't kill people. I have to help people. I have to save people. And we have this whole story arc where he starts to save the bridgemen dying, and he gets new crew members in the bridge crew.
Yes.
And he keeps saving people. Anybody, somebody dies, he freaks out. Yeah. Somebody looks like his brother Tian, he freaks out. Anybody is hurt, he freaks out. Yeah. He cannot kill anybody. And it was like a video game, and do you know ludonarrative dissonance, where you have like a character who is horrified of death, and you have like this emotional like movie scene, and he's like, I can't kill people, and then you start playing the game and you kill everybody. It's like this is how I felt in this book. It's like
I think that was this moment. At one moment, I think it was even in the book like written that he realized that you can protect people by killing.
Okay,
that's the thing that kind of
Okay.
Two ways to look at it. Okay or not okay. I don't know where I am.
Okay. All right.
Went against his like father's words.
Can I say this?
Yeah, of course.
First, I don't remember. I think it's already in this book. He says that he was the second he entered in the army. He was very good at creating what he calls it the us versus them mentality.
Yes.
So that his crew and his side are the most important thing.
Yeah.
So protecting them is more important than anything else. So if he has to kill like others to protect them, then it doesn't matter. He will do it. Second thing I will say, what you say is extremely, extremely correct. And like the author is extremely aware of this. And you have to remember that this is book 1.
Okay.
And there is a big growth in Kaladin's character in this first book, and he is the main character of this book. In the second and third and fourth book, his importance will go down, but his character arc is very, very far from over.
Of course.
And this type of we talked about this. That's why I wanted to talk so much about Wit's story and why it's important that he tells that story to Kaladin. Like, Kaladin will think about these things.
Of course.
Like, this idea that, like, you know, he's freaked out about dying, killing and people dying, and so this will become a very, very important point in his character. Yeah. So, it's not just abandoned.
So I would mind it less if there was less time spent him being, like, just so mentally broken down by killing people. There's so much of that. So much. He was constantly like depressed because somebody died, and then he killed everybody. If there was a little bit less of him being depressed by people who died.
But in this book, he's not really depressed about killing. He's more depressed about like failing to protect.
Yes. Yeah. And that goes with the other thing I was thinking about, and I can't make up my mind if I like don't like this, or if I'm okay with this, or if it's good or bad. So the moment where they are finally free, and he decides to go and help Dalinar and not be free, and he's the whole book, protect them, they will not die. Protect them, it's my responsibility, I will not make more people die. Immediately takes this whole crew that finally survived and runs them onto his army, and everybody dies.
And in a way...
Okay, but that's not the part I don't like. No. The part is his reasoning. It's in the like name of honor. He says it even in the book. We have to be honorable, and it's not honorable to let them die. So we will die a little bit, but they will die less. So I understand in his mind it works that he will save people and less people will die. Okay, but then he kills everybody. Okay, but I think it should go one way or the other. Like either it's all noble and it's all like honor, and we will do like the best imaginable way and go that way, or I don't mind killing people, let's run away. Like one or the other. Like either it's real and he's like, okay, so I want to save people, but sometimes people have to die. Life is rough, it's shit, okay, and that means finally we leave because there's no way to survive. Or we're honorable and I mind it a little bit that we're killing this Parshendi. One of these I would want, like not both. That's my problem.
Well, but indeed, like in that moment in his mind, the Parshendi are almost like not people. Like this is something that is covered. Like they weren't thinking about the Parshendi as people. I know. They weren't studying.
But if somebody should be thinking of them as people, he should.
Yeah, but at that moment he hadn't come to that realization yet, because he hadn't really fought the Parshendi yet. Like he had just been like, they had been shooting. Like the Parshendi were killing, like his crew, like all the time. So he had no feelings of sympathy towards them. You're right that at a purest reasoning level, this is correct. But
he's using this to make the final decision.
Yeah.
So that's why I minded, because he He makes it a point, but he doesn't really.
His point at that moment, like his idea at that moment is that he has the chance to save someone. Okay, and that's right over anything else.
Oh yes.
Like including the not killing the Parshendi.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like, I don't think it's bad, but I was like this like clash in my mind. I was like, either he's like real and grim and like down to earth, and he's gonna do the thing that's realistically, practically reasonable, or he's gonna be idealistic about it. And
that's why he's not a white and black character. He's
so it makes sense.
Right.
I just don't know how I feel about it.
And also, as Paul was saying, this is just the beginning of his character arc, and it's kind of like development of his mental state.
Because the thing, the moment he decided to go back and help them, I didn't feel like it was justified. I didn't feel like it was real at the time, and everything before this moment felt real to me in this book. I like this book, it was very grim real, and everything felt super grounded, and this didn't feel like that the only time to me.
Well, I mean, again, I think this is just like the culmination of Kaladin's experiences.
It makes sense, yes. Yeah. But it just kind of a little bit broke the realism.
I mean, I would I would agree in a realistic way, probably, like, they would have never gone back.
Especially the bridgeman, like him, but the bridgeman, even though they follow him, they should at least protest a little bit.
I agree.
And they were immediately like, okay, let's go, let's die.
You have to keep in mind that they have him as a god, essentially.
But
it's a religion.
Their whole life they'll be fighting to be free, and they are free now.
Okay, I will say this. You're correct. I also thought that, the bridgeman immediately agreeing, being so okay with this was not wrong, but I don't know if it was
They were
rushed.
not okay with little, smaller things earlier. They were not okay with those, and suddenly it was just like, okay.
But I think that first, in a way, it's kind of like, the way it's described is that the scene they were watching was so gruesome that essentially it was just like natural human instinct to want to help.
Or run away.
Or run away. Okay, fair. Second, this has kind of have to do with the Knights Radiant and the fact that they started using like the Knights Radiant words among them. Because this is the philosophy of the Knights Radiant, specifically the Windrunners. We should, like, normal people shouldn't take this decision, but we do.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Which, again, I understand. Like, if you tell me, like, well, but in a more realistic point of view, they wouldn't, or they would, protest more and everything else. I agree. That is why this is still fantasy. Like, it has still a side of high fantasy where this is a hero. You're right, but this is a hero.
I was, but that's why I like this book. I thought this wasn't that.
All right.
Until this point, I thought it wasn't that.
All right.
And now it is that.
But
I don't know how I feel about it.
It is that, but it is that only sometimes, and it is that, but also with consequences. Like if you ever get to, especially book 3. What you just said, there will be a scene where exactly what you said will have very, very big consequences.
Yeah, I'm sure it's...
Where it's like, real life doesn't work this way. Just because you feel this way and just because you want to do certain things. Real life doesn't work this way, and your feelings, you can't just completely subvert your feelings. So...
Yeah, I don't mind it, but it kind of broke the way I thought about it.
Okay.
So I was like, I wish it wasn't there, but it kind of had to be, and it's not bad either. So I don't know what I feel about it. So it's okay, but I guess I wish it wasn't there. Well, that's the end of part 4. Let's see you in the next part.
See ya.
You are destroyed.
Yes.
So on the last part, we finally finished part 4, which was called Dying. And before we go into the final part, which is very short, and sum this up, wrap this up finally, I wanted to say a couple of things that we didn't have time to go over.
Yeah.
One of the recurring notes that I have while I was reading this book was, Kaladin, get over it. Just get over it already. Kaladin.
No. That's his, like, main focus. That's his main character value, that he's depressed about everything. You can't take that from him.
Yeah.
I was just thinking how all these, like, it's not years, is it? How long was he a slave, do you think? Is it like months?
So he was a slave for over a year.
Well, anyway, my point I wanted to make was that he's seen so much death while being a slave. He's seen so much death doing the army. He's seen so much death being a surgeon. And he has been taught by his father to not care about these people who are dying. And constantly he's been beaten to death. He's committed almost suicide. He's completely crushed, hit rock bottom so hard. Yeah. And then still he cannot get over it. Like he sees people dying after all this, and he cannot get over it. And he has to save them. He has to like have a mental breakdown about not saving them. Just get over it, Kaladin. I can't deal with it.
But that's, I think, one of the great points about this character.
Yeah. Just read the second
Yes,
book.
And for me also, no, like I get it. Like I get what you're saying, but at the same time I was kind of bothered with it because it was the same problem I just talked about in the previous part. Like it felt so real, and then it didn't really. So yeah.
I mean, I understand like what you're saying in the sense that it's kind of like unrealistically sensitive.
He would have to be desensitized at this point.
Right.
He's in so much
But
shit.
that's kind of the point, right? Like anyone else would have just given up, but he didn't. And that's why like he can become
Yes,
like
it's true,
who he
true.
becomes, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's all I wanted to quickly mention.
Okay.
And let's look at the last part, part 5 of this book. After all this magnificent epic climax, you'd think it would be done, but no, there's like 10 more chapters and epilogue, afterlogue, for afternotes.
Yeah.
So part 5 is called The Silence Above.
Yeah, it's very short, but it's very dense with like revelations and other events.
This is the type of pace and speed and condensed events that I was hoping the whole book would be, so I was happy at this part. So we start with going back to Shallan, and I remember reading this after this super climax battle, and I was like, who's Shallan?
Oh yeah, Shallan exists.
Yeah.
How did
She was in the
she exist?
hospital.
I get that. That was super long wait.
Yeah. So long story short, they make up with Yasna after some discussions and arguing. Yasna wants to get rid of her, but then Shallan knows too much, and they talk about the Voidbringers and all the soul casting.
Right, and there is like this super big revelation that the Voidbringers are actually just the Parshmen.
Yeah.
And that essentially humanity has enslaved their mortal enemies, making them essentially like mindless slaves. Which really hit me, like because they talk about the Parshmen a lot throughout the book, but you know, you would expect that the Voidbringers are like these giant monsters, like from hell. You wouldn't expect they're just like these like lobotomized people.
And to be honest, I wasn't sure the Voidbringers were the Parshan. I thought it was like suggested, but it wasn't sure.
No. It's
So I guess-
It's like, from the research that Yasna and Shallan has conducted, it's like one of the conclusions they managed to get out of it.
Yeah, okay. So this storyline ends with Yasna and Shallan going into the Shattered Plains to find the truth about the Parshendi and the Voidbringers
and searching for
future adventures.
Kurik-Tir, which is like the lost city.
So then another storyline, of course, Kaladin. He negotiates with Dalinar after he saved him, and they agree that they would come back and confront Elokar and Sadius and all of those. I'm trying to say all these names.
Well, Elokar and mainly
remember the
Sadius. Like
names.
Sadius is
So Sadius is the one who betrayed him, and Elokar
The
is the king.
backstabber, yeah. That was so epic, the scene where Dalinar just like waltzed into Sadius's camp after the tower.
Yeah.
And just gave him the shard blade.
He gives away Oathbringer to Sadius.
We didn't explain. Dalinar feels like he owes Kaladin for saving him, and he is
Yes.
also a man of
Yeah.
honor. So he wants to keep the men from Bridge 4 that Kaladin trained and adopt them to his army. And of course, the other High Lords, Bright Lords, were not happy about it at all. So to confront Sadius, he they had like a very dramatic conversation, and like you said, they agree that if he gives up his super blade shard blade, in exchange they will spare the slaves, and he can make them his soldiers.
And more importantly, like he takes all of the bridge crews, so not only bridge 4, but all the bridge crews from 1 to 20.
So that's what Kaladin does. Kaladin's like, yeah, great, but this and this and this and this, and have a list of conditions, and one of them is you save all the other bridgemen too, which is kind of nice of him. So finally he got his, like, I'll save these people, so I hope that in the next book he got over it finally. Nope, I know it's not. You don't have to tell me, but I wish he got over it.
Okay.
So this storyline finishes with...
This book ends just with them moving over to Dalinar's camp. Like, we don't know anything else. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we skipped one storyline, which was...
Dalinar's one. Okay. So essentially, Dalinar has been... We talked about, like, he had these visions and people thought he was mad. He himself thought he was mad. He wanted to abdicate in favor of Adolin. But in the end, he kind of accepted he wasn't mad. Like, he starts thinking he isn't mad. And because he felt like he wasn't a good diplomat and a good politician, he says, you know what? The thing I know how to do best is just punching people. So he goes to Elokar, punches him really hard, and says, tell me the truth. It was you who cut the saddle, and you essentially sabotaged yourself. And then,
oh yeah, the strap on the saddle.
You were the one who did it, and so I'm done with all of these games. So you will make me like High Marshal. I will tell the High Princes what they have to do, and they have been children, and I will be like the father and punch them into their place. and then he says, and he leaves Elokar's place by saying, by the way, me and your mother are dating.
Yeah. He really gave it to him. It was a good scene. It wrapped up all pretty well.
I think so.
I also have a note here that Seth is tasked to kill Dalinar in some kind of a chapter.
The other big reveal was that. So we talked about how Seth had essentially a new employer, and the employer gave him a list of people to kill, and these people were all like kings and like very important people, princes. And the last person he had to kill the last person on the list was the king of Kharbranth, Tarvanjan.
Tarvanjan. Yeah.
So he goes there to kill him, but it's revealed that actually Tarvanjan was the one with his oath stone. So essentially Tarvanjan was his boss. He was the one who were... telling him to kill like all of these people. So Tarvanjan says, of course don't kill me, but go and kill Dalinar. So in the next book, Seth will be on the hunt for Dalinar. Tarvanjan also reveals another thing. Sorry, I was about to forget. Tarvanjan reveals something very important, that he looks like such a nice guy and everything, but it's revealed that he has like this secret hospital where essentially he because you would get all of these records of people what they said right before dying.
That's the preface, like the short paragraph before the chapter.
Yes. It's revealed that actually
somebody dies and has some sort of a last phrase,
and it's revealed that actually it was like what Tarvanjan was doing, because he has this secret hospital where he puts poor people to die, and most of them they're just like very sick people. Essentially is euthanizing them, which I mean you can think of that whatever you want, but for the most part, like, it's people who would die anyway. But he also says that there are other people who are just like very poor people, and they wouldn't die. They're not sick, but they are like draining their blood and so on. So they would die, and then they would say something, and they can use those bits to try and predict the future.
So predict the future to find out about the Voidbringers, or do we know why he's trying to do this?
In this book, it's not said.
It's kind of part of a bigger plan that Tarvanjan has, but we don't really know about it.
Okay, so one last quick note about this part is that I really liked how Dalinar found out that the visions are not interactive.
Yes. So we are about to forget like maybe the biggest revelation. He sees like the last vision, which is also the first, which is the one where he sees like it's him and this guy, and they see Kholinar getting destroyed.
So they replay the vision, and he realizes that he's talking. Like he at first was talking at him, and he was getting super cryptic answers, and now he understands that the other guy is not listening.
It's just a recorded message.
Realizes
It's not
that
a conversation.
He was just interpreting the answers, pre-recorded answers, as a conversation.
Which I liked very much. It was cool.
Yeah, and also the guy reveals that he is Honor, so he's the Almighty, and that he's dead. That's like the biggest reveal of the book.
I'm your god. By the way, I'm dead.
Exactly. So,
which is like not good, I guess. And also, the bad guy is coming. He said at one point, I think, but we don't know what the bad guy or who the bad guy is actually.
So that was cool. Nice ending. I like this part a lot. Of course, there's more.
All 3 books have a very short wee chapter to close the book. And in this one, there is Wit just in Kholinar making fun of some guards.
Yeah, playing some random instrument and just making fun and talking about, what was it, like the most valuable thing to a man?
Yeah. Which I like the answer. I didn't think of that.
Was it novelty? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
They're like, is it money? Is it honor? Is it fame? Is it power? And then they argued enough to say that it's novelty, which I think is an interesting thought.
Yeah.
And then Felonel came, right?
Yeah, a big, like,
bashing on the door.
muscular guy arrives. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
What?
Yeah,
That's
like...
literally the ending of the book.
That was the end.
Like the door, the gates of the city are opened by a Shardblade, and this massive black guy appears.
Oh, okay, I remember something.
He says something like, I'm too late, or something like that.
He's like, hey, the desolations are coming and shit and fuck.
Oh, yes, I remember.
I have failed you, I'm sorry. And then he kind of like breaks down. Yeah, and that's it.
So finally, that's the end of this book, is it?
That's the end. There is the appendix,
so, yeah.
which is not so important. That's kind of disappointing. I wanted more. I hope like there will be more. But...
Oh my god.
No,
Just
why?
stop. Just stop this book. Okay, so thank you for sticking with us until the very end. And because I promised it, we would do a top 3 best things and top 3 worst things about this book.
Okay.
And the gentlemen who joined me on this adventure have a very hard time to find the top worst things on this book. So let's start with those. So I have a list of just 3 things.
Okay.
I'll try to make this brief. So the third worst thing on my list is the Dalinar storyline.
Okay.
What? What? That was the...
No, it's not the best. It's not the
Just
best.
to make you angry.
No, it's not the best.
Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy the political machinations with Sadeas, Alucard's Dalinar at all, and there were parts of Dalinar's stories I liked a lot, but unfortunately, that's like 20%, and the rest was just politicking. All I'm really saying is my third worst point is, like, this part was too long.
All right.
Do you have a third worst?
I think I have like Shallan. Overall, I just wasn't impressed by Shallan's story throughout the first book.
I agree with you, but like you could say the same a little about some chapters in Kaladin's flashback, where nothing really is happening and it's kind of stretched out.
Well, that's the second worst.
So my number 2 worst is Kaladin can't get over it, and he can't get over killing people. He can't get over saving people. He has to save everybody, and then he murders everybody. What the hell? So what's your second worst?
So Martin, please.
Well, I said already
the
was the
flashback.
Kaladin backstories because
Flashback into a flashback.
My second worst is, and I talked about this before, it's like explanations, like exposition, which is too much in your face, where he has to explain, the author has to explain something about the world and the history, and it's not organic at all. Like it's just, now let me tell you about this thing because you reader need to know it. The characters are just talking about it for no reason. Like Seth explaining to himself how his powers work. Why would he do that?
So number 1 worst. You already talked about this in great length, so maybe just don't comment on this and it will make you very mad. But my worst thing is the moment where they didn't escape and they turned back to fight.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's very connected to my top best. So I'll talk about it a little bit more when I say my all-time best.
Okay. I actually don't have a worst.
Well, I guess that makes Paladins the worst.
That makes sense.
Like the Paladins flashback.
I think that's a very good indicator that it's a good book. I think that's a good worst point that you don't have it. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
My worst is romance. I think. I think overall
that's
romance is very poorly done in not only in this book but also in the following ones.
Okay, so let's go quickly over the top best. So my third best thing is quarter lashing, half lashing, lashing up your ass on the ceiling. Now you're thinking with lashings.
Yeah.
Anime moments, of course. I think the third thing would be that everything matters in what Brandon actually writes. Even though they are kind of drier or deader moments, every time there's something mentioned, it's probably gonna pay off eventually. There's gonna be a payoff at one point, and I like that.
Well, what you just said is my second favorite point. Like, just the structure, and the more I go on, the more I see how everything was important. Yeah, it's just amazing. I really like all of these connections, and how everything
Definitely.
keeps coming up.
Cool.
Yeah. For these 3 points, I don't really want to put them in order because I keep shifting them. So I would say the lore, and in the lore I also want to include the powers. So kind of like what Philip was saying, the powers like sharp blades.
So my second best was the chase when Shallan was drawing creatures that she was remembering. Just like I've never heard of it. I think it's a very original idea. It really stuck with me, that you draw from memory and you're scared of what you saw and you didn't know you saw it. I really like that. It's like a cool horror idea I never heard of before. The idea that you have something in your subconscious or in your like visual memory that you can't really access, and then when you get in the flow and just put it on paper, it appears, is horrifying to me.
Okay, yeah.
So what's the second best word today?
I really loved the preambles at the starts of each chapter, because it just gives you a shard of something to think about. Let's say like something to give you like food for thought. As you get more and more information from the main story, you start to realize how it ties into the big thing, the big reveal, I guess you can say.
So number one best for me is I really, really like a fantasy that's grounded and feels real. I haven't read anything that's fantasy and felt this real. And I especially like Kaladin's way of overcoming despair. Fight Paulo. He almost killed himself. He had the worst luck. He had the worst situations. And he kept somehow finding ways to overcome it. Somehow real and inspiring at the same time. I love this part the most. And I really, really like the realism. And then it kind of ruined like the honor moment when they turned back to save their army. So that kind of ruined this feeling for me. So I didn't hate it. I want to make clear that I didn't dislike it. I didn't like get angry at it, but it kind of ruined this like mood I was in. Because I was expecting this to be gritty, real, and things will happen as they should happen.
This for me is the best point. Like this like catharsis of like Kaladin finally, managing to make the impossible possible. Of course, like there is the magic element. This is fantasy, so he's able to save everyone because he powers up and he becomes super powerful, and that helps.
But yeah, for the thing that stuck with me the most, and it's not only tied to the first book but all of the books, is the magic system of the Stormlight Archives, because essentially the ground physics that apply to the universe, the magic systems are always kind of built on top of those. And I really like how, thanks to that, every part of the magic system makes complete sense.
So Thank you so much for your time. I apologize that I've taken so much of yours. And for you listeners, thank you for sticking it out. If you're still here, I've said this at the Broken Earth Trilogy podcast at the very end. I said, if you're still listening, please leave a comment. Send us a comment at mindhackbooks@gmail.com or leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify or Audible or at iTunes. Leave a comment somewhere or send me a message. I'd be very curious.
An essay about Kaladin and
No,
Shala.
send that to Martin. I don't want that.
I'll send it to Philip and
Philip is
Philip
gonna,
will forward it to Martin.
reply.
Okay, I'll forward it to Martin and Paulo. But if you've actually listened to all of the episodes, if somebody's still listening now, please let me know. I'm genuinely curious. I've said this on the Free Body Problem, and I'm still getting messages sometimes. So it's it's a nice thing for me personally. And I hope we'll do the second book. I want to read it. I mean it, but I'm not sure when. And I'm not sure how much time it's gonna take. And I'm not sure if you guys are gonna remember what you've read by the time. So thanks again so much for listening and doing this. It has been probably the most effort we've put into a book on this podcast by far. So thanks again. And if you have anything final to say before we stop, now's your chance. If not, you shall be forever silent on this topic.
I'd like to officially thank you, Philip, for making time for doing this, actually, because
I love it.
you've read this
The worst possible time.
the most inconvenient time. In the most worst possible time you could have read this book. You read it and you got through it and finished it, and thanks to that we can do this.
I enjoyed it
together, and that was really good. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you too. Thank you. Right, so see you on the next episode. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening and sticking with us all the way through if you're still listening. It's been a struggle to record this, release this. So I'd love to hear what you think. I'd like to hear if you want us to do more of these, or if you enjoy just shorter episodes about just one book. Let us know at mindhackbooks@gmail.com, and don't forget to rate us at Audible, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.